innocent until you are proven guilty. We're all familiar with the phrase innocent until proven guilty. That means that we as the defense, we have no legal burden whatsoever to create reasonable doubt. It's the prosecutor's job to remove each and every reasonable doubt that the accused, Mrs. Sarah Baker, might be innocent. It's not the prosecutor's job to just entice you to a verdict with tactics of persuasion. It's their job to demonstrate beyond any and all reasonable doubt the guilt of the accused. This means that you as a responsible juror cannot convict a person of a crime unless you are fully satisfied and entirely convinced of that guilt. The prosecutors have not done that job and they have not reached that burden. After the presentation of their case, you've been left with nothing but doubt. In a few minutes, you'll hear the judge instruct you on what the definition of self-defense is. The killing of another person in self-defense is justified and legal if that person believes that there is imminent danger that they are going to be significantly injured or killed. On the morning of September 7, 2005, all of those elements were present. Sarah was faced with the sorrow, the horror, and the terror when she came to the realization that her loving and caring husband, or once loving and caring husband, would rather see her dead and was willing to kill him herself unless she did something to stop it. And you heard the prior testimony of how Kelly treated Sarah. Obviously, he had drinking problems. He accused her of being unfaithful. He even picked up and threw a china lamp across the room during an argument. On another occasion, he became angry after he found out that she might be concerned about leaving her entire estate to a man who's been treating her this way. The prosecution's own experts, who by the way are salaried employees of the state, they both admitted that Kelly was intoxicated at the time of his death, 0.08 blood alcohol content. And Dr. Sain even testified that it's not unusual for a person to become violent and combative when under the influence of alcohol. The man who investigated this entire situation, Mr. Dale Ryan, he even admitted that people with a level of intoxication of a 0.08 exhibit aggressive and violent tendencies. Had the prosecutors removed any doubt? You heard Sarah testify that on the morning of September 7th, 2005, the angry, hateful, and hurtful Kelly Baker stumbled drunkenly into the kitchen at Ashgate Farm. There his wife was sitting, the woman he swore to love. She was innocently eating her breakfast. He pulled a gun from his robe, pointed at Sarah, and told her it was time to die. She managed to convince him to put the gun down and try to talk it out. And she realized that if she needed to get control of that gun or she was going to end up dead. And as she grabbed that gun from the table, Kelly immediately grabbed a knife from the counter. Yelling and cursing, telling her he was going to kill her, he advanced towards her, slashing back and forth. You saw the demonstration. Stabbing wounds, you're still going to get some wounds on your arms. He cut her several times. At this point, Sarah's now been threatened by both a gun and a knife. Anyone in Sarah's position would feel that there is imminent danger of them being injured or killed. With Kelly advancing towards her, it was necessary for her to do something to stop it. How close does somebody with a knife need to be before you're allowed to do something to stop it? Again, you heard the prosecutor's own experts testify to the possibility and discuss the possibility that Kelly was actually standing at the time of the shooting and not sitting down as they contend. You heard Dale Ryan and Dr. Torgerson both discuss the elongated bloodstains on the front of Kelly's pajama pants. And they both testified that this indicates that Kelly could have been standing and not sitting at the time of the shooting. Again, has the prosecution removed any doubt from your mind? Dale Ryan and Dr. Sain both testified that it was possible that Kelly was approaching Sarah in a crouched position, and once the shooting began, he turned away, receiving the gunshot wound in his back, and fell towards the area of the chair. And that explains why gunshot wounds number 4 is a grazing wound. It entered and exited in this almost exact same position on his back. That was the prosecution's own expert's opinion, stating that was a possibility. Dr. Torgerson further testified that it is impossible to preclude or rule out the possibility, if not the probability, that Mr. Baker was actually standing and not sitting at the table? If he was sitting down at the table, why was there no blood found on the table? None. And it was directly in front of him. Remember the evidence that you've heard today. Kelly and Sarah had a perfect marriage. But behind that veil of perfection was a face of sorrow, horror, and terror. A face that belonged to Sarah Baker. And it was caused by her husband. The prosecutor's job is to convince you, beyond a reasonable doubt, that Sarah killed her husband. Prosecution hasn't removed any doubt. Their own experts have done nothing but to create more doubt by them admitting that it is completely possible that Sarah Baker was defending herself against the drunken attack of her husband. Has the prosecution fully satisfied you? Have you been entirely convinced of Sarah's guilt? The only thing reasonable here is doubt. Sarah Baker was a victim of domestic abuse and is entitled to be found not guilty.